Hey guys, what's up? Finchy here. Before we start this video, I just want to take the time out to say thanks for helping me reach 223 subscribers. Fun fact, by the time it takes you to pause this video and check my subscriber count, I will have lost 3 subscribers. Let's get into the video. If you guys have a suggestion for a top 10 video game list that you would like me to do, please leave it in the comment section below.
Uh-huh.
The game we are going to be looking at today is the childhood favorite platformer Banjo-Kazooie, Rareware's pride and joy. This is by far one of my favorite games of all time. I guess that's why I chose it to do my first ever top 10 list on. This game has a total of 9 levels, ranging from the rolling hills of Mumbo's Mountains, to the snow-capped peaks of Freeze-Easy Peak, to the oil-slicked waters of Rusty Bucket Bay. Across all of these levels are many collectibles, the most important being the glorious Jiggy, the item you need to unlock more worlds, and therein complete the game. There are a total of 100 Jiggies, and today we are breaking down my picks for the top 10 hardest Jiggies to collect in the game. Now, just a forewarning, no Jinjo Jiggies will be on this list. That will be saved for a different top 10 list. Also a warning, there is one Jiggy I will not put on this list because longtime fans of the series will see it coming as the number 1 pick, so instead I am going to make it my honorable mention. Honorable mention, prize behind the propellers, Rusty Bucket Bay. This is by far one of the hardest Jiggies, if not the hardest Jiggy in the game to get. First, you have to get to the level Rusty Bucket Bay, which is level 8 in the game out of 9. Once you get to Rusty Bucket Bay, you have to work your way to the engine room, which is a room full of turning cogs, pieces, enemies, and fan blades that'll knock you right off edges. There's a button on each side of the end of this room. First, you have to work your way to the left or right side and hit that button. Once you do that, you have to work your way back across the other side to hit the other button. Then, you have a 65-second time limit to work your way to the end of the ship, avoiding all of the previous hazards, and make your way back up the smokestack and out to the back of the ship. The reason this Jiggy is so hard is, well, for one, you have a 65-second time limit. 2, you need to know your way pretty well through this level to find those propellers on the end of the boat. And 3, you have to work your way to the buttons in the first place. Like I said, this would most likely land its place at number 1 on my list, but it's such an obvious pick for number 1, I decided to make it an honorable mention. Now the rest of this list will seem a little bit more random. Let's get on to the list. Number 10. Enter the code Rusty Bucket Bay. To pick a top 10 list of hardest Jiggies to get in Banjo-Kazooie, some of the lower numbers like 8, 9, and 10 are kind of easy to get, but they still rank among some of the hardest Jiggies to get in the game. So it comes without a surprise that there's not actually that much risk in getting the number 10 spot on this list. The reason it made it on this list is for the simple fact that first-time players of the game won't know what to do. So here's the setup. You finally get to Rusty Bucket Bay and walk to the front of the ship, and you'll see 3 numeric pads with whistles attached to them. The whistles make noises that are actually similar to sounds made in the song of Rusty Bucket Bay. So in the minds of some gamers, you might think, I have to repeat the sounds made in that song. No, that is not the answer. So then you think, well, maybe I could just work my way through it until I get the right combination. Well, here's the issue. You don't know how many times you need to hit each one of these numbers. And every time you hit the wrong number, you take a piece of damage. So finally, you get mad enough and you walk away. And then you realize that on the side of the ship is the numeric code. 312-111. And the Jiggy's as easy to get as that. But still, I feel like this tricks a lot of new players to the game. Either that, or else I'm just stupid. Probably the second option. Without further ado, let's just move forward with the list. Number 9. Rescue Snorkel, Rusty Bucket Bay. So Snorkel is a little dolphin that is trapped under an anchor. First of all, I feel like I'm probably the only person who's done this, but I just kind of passed him over until the end of the game when I realized I only had 99 Jiggies and I had to figure out where I was missing one. The main reason I passed him over is because the water is filled with oil and drains your health twice as fast, so it should be pretty obvious that I definitely choose to avoid it. But nonetheless, this little poor dolphin under here needs your help, and the anchor has been stuck on him for quite a while. Once again, this isn't a very hard Jiggy to get, it's just the fact that you have to risk your life going under this water and losing your breath twice as fast. In order to lift the anchor, you have to swim up to where the chain is coming from. Then you'll find the small anchor room. Working your way through this anchor room isn't really that hard, and then there's just a button at the end that you press and it lifts the anchor, and then Snorkel leaves the Jiggy there for you. So you still have to come out and collect the Jiggy, once again risking your air and therefore your life. And after you get the Jiggy, you have to work your way back to shore without dying. Well, I guess you don't have to work your way back to shore, you could just lose the life. But that's basically all I have to say about this one. Let's move on. Number 8, Freeze Easy Peaks Hub World Jiggy, the Hub World. So every level has a Jiggy associated with it that lands in the Hub World. There's always a button you have to hit inside the world to make the Jiggy that's outside the world appear. Most of these are pretty easy to get, with one exception, Freeze Easy Peaks Hub World Jiggy. First, you have to go flying in the air in Freeze Easy Peak and kill a Sir Slush. Don't worry, we'll talk more about them in a little bit. This may look easy, but trust me, it's really not. Once you dispatch of him, you'll see the button on the ground, surrounded by ice water nonetheless. Once you hit the button, you'll get a small video to show you where the Jiggy spawned outside of the world. It spawns on the top of this advent calendar looking thing, and you gotta figure out how to make your way up there because there's no clear way. Well, in order to make your way up there, first, you gotta clear the cobwebs out of this area right here, and then you need to have the Speedy Sneaker move, which you learn in Gobi's Valley, the level after this one. And then you need to work your way up the advent calendar, click the button to spawn the flight pad, which is a pad that allows you to fly, obviously. And then you have to work your way through this tiny opening in the top of this cave here. Once you get your way through without falling down, you can fly to the top of the advent calendar and claim your Jiggy. That's about it. It's just hard because you have a time limit when you click the button, only 10 seconds, and this is why you need the Speedy Shoes. That's the main reason this Jiggy's kinda hard to get. Anyways, let's move on. Number 7, Raise Clanker, Clanker's Cavern. Fun fact, this is the lowest level Jiggy on the list. Clanker's Cavern is level 3 of the game. When you first work your way through this level, you're going to see a giant killer whale by the name of Clanker. The poor thing's been submerged under this water forever, and all he wants is to get you to raise him out of the water. Well, that and for you to be a dentist, but that's another Jiggy. Anyways, what we're talking about today is raising him out of the water, which is quite the dangerous feat for so early on in the game. First, you have to locate the source of the problem, which is a chain holding Clanker down. Then you have to swim to the bottom of this chain where he's attached to a giant anvil with a key in it. This is the deepest swimming location in the game, so you definitely run the risk of running out of air. Luckily there's a little fish down here that'll give you bubbles which restore your air, but sometimes it's kinda hard to catch up to him. You have to swim through the key 3 times in order to raise Clanker, and then the Jiggy pops up on his back. So he doesn't even give it to you, you have to work your way up to his back. So before you work your way back up, you have to refill your air with bubbles supplied by that nice fish who's been helping you this whole time. Once you have a full supply of air, work your way back up, climb onto Clanker's back, which is a challenge all on its own, and then you can be rewarded with the Jiggy. Number 6, defeat Sir Slush's Freeze Easy Peak. Say that 5 times fast in a row. Once again, we are back in Freeze Easy Peak, and once again, we are dealing with Sir Slushes. This time, you don't have to defeat just one. You have to defeat all of them. Now, earlier on in this list, I said that Sir Slushes were kind of hard to kill because you have to aim while flying and hit them in the hat. This, of course, is marked by a giant red X, so it's not like it's impossible to figure this out. But nonetheless, it is still a major hassle. So in reality, this isn't extremely hard, but it's another one of those things that made it onto the list because first-time players might not know what to do. The basic goal to get this Jiggy is to defeat all of the Sir Slushes in Freeze Easy Peak, and that's it. Once you defeat all of the Sir Slushes, a Jiggy will pop up on top of the snowman's hat, so another part of this Jiggy is working your way up there. What makes this Jiggy particularly hard is the fact that you have to kill all these enemies, and apparently you're supposed to know that. I mean, what if they told you to kill every crab enemy in Treasure Trove Cove? Or every slimy wall enemy in Rusty Bucket Bay? It's just kind of weird that this one level you have to kill all of the specific enemies to get a Jiggy. But either way, I'm sure people figure it out eventually. Let's move on. Number 5. Remember Tanktup's song, Bubblegloop Swamp. Bubblegloop Swamp is the 4th level of the game, so it's kind of bridging that gap between easy and hard. Some of the Jiggies are just extremely easy to get, while other ones are some of the hardest in the game. This specific Jiggy, you have to work your way inside of a giant turtle by stomping on his feet, which gives you a Jiggy anyways. That isn't the Jiggy we're talking about, unfortunately. That might make it on a list of top 10 easiest Jiggies to get. Once you go inside the turtle's mouth, you see 6 colored turtles. We now go talk to Tiptup, who's the big turtle that's choreographing the orchestra of the turtles. He tells you that if you remember his song and play it back to him, he might just give you a prize. From this point on, you have to play a game of Simon Says, but instead of 4 colors, you have 6. And instead of a pattern of 1 or 2, you have a pattern of 3. Kazooie makes some sort of smart aleck comment, and then you go to bashing the turtles' heads in. Not brutally, of course, just to make them play more music. Once you match the tune, Tiptup will play lesson 2 for you. What makes this hard is that the colors that play are actually different. Oh, and there's 5 of them. Again, you rinse and repeat, smash all 5 turtles, play the correct tune, and then comes lesson number 3. Lesson number 3 is where things get really crazy. Tiptup adds 2 more turtle notes into the mix and brings the total up to 7. Oh, it's about time that I mention, if you hit the wrong turtles, you take damage. As you can see by me dying here and then Grunty trash talking me. Luckily, when you go back, he restarts at whatever lesson you were on, so you don't have to play lessons 1 and 2 again. Finally, if you play his 7-note song right, he'll give you the Jiggy. It's as easy as that. Not very easy. Number 4. Time to Jiggy Bubblegloop Swamp. And we're back at Bubblegloop Swamp for the number 4 pick. Oddly enough, you'll see a couple levels made it onto this list several times. I guess some of the levels are just harder than others. Rusty Bucket Bay. Anyways, back in Bubblegloop Swamp, you're going to see this little switch with a Jiggy on it. And you're going to think, well, obviously that's going to make a Jiggy pop up. What you might not know is the Jiggy has a time limit, and at the end of the time limit it shatters. So then you think to yourself, well, maybe it pops up in an area where I just have to kind of run in a straight line to get there. Nope, you have to follow this zigzagging path through midair, where most of the time if you fall you'll land into piranha-infested water. The basic rule of thumb with this Jiggy is just take your time, you have plenty of time to get it. But it always ends up being one of the hardest for first-timers to this game. Number 3. Beat Mr.Vile, Bubblegloop Swamp. And the 3rd entry in a row for Bubblegloop Swamp. In this entry, you have to first make your way to Mumbo with the correct amount of tokens for him to transform you into an animal. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, people who've never played Banjo-Kazooie, Mumbo Jumbo, this skull shaman guy, transforms you into animals. In Bubblegloop Swamp, he'll transform you into a crocodile, which is kinda cool because you can live through the piranha-infested water, and you can bite people. One other small thing you can do with this is work your way into small areas, like the nose of this crocodile statue. Once you get inside here, you'll actually realize that it's the home of a really mean crocodile named Mr.Vile. He asks you if you want to play a little game where you have to eat little red apple-like creatures in order to win. Whoever eats the most in an allotted amount of time wins. The first round is generally pretty easy. Once you win the first round, he asks you if you want to play the second round, which adds in snake-like creatures that will drop your score if you eat them. The objective is still the same, eat the red apple-like creatures, avoid the snake-like creatures, and you'll win. And there's one more round. In this round, you have to eat whatever pops up on the top of your screen. And this is kinda hard because you'll find yourself going for a little red apple, and then it'll say you need to eat snakes, you eat the apple, and it damages your score. Not to mention that Mr.Vile is incredibly fast. When you enter the room, you can actually see the speedy sneakers in the background. They're supposed to help you, but I decided to get the Jiggy before I got the speedy sneakers, considering you don't get the speedy sneakers for another 2 levels. Luckily, the 3rd round is the last, as with most of these things with rounds. And then Mr.Vile will reward you your Jiggy. Congratulations. Number 2, Timed Button Pyramid, Gobi's Valley. Finally, we are on a different world. Gobi's Valley, the world right after Freeze Easy Peak, and right before Mad Monster Mansion, proves to be a pretty easy level for being the 6th level of the game. But there is one Jiggy in it that is definitely really hard. At this point, there's definitely a pattern showing up. Jiggies that have timers are extremely hard to get. First, you need to find the pair of speed sneakers hidden up on top of the hill over here. You have to put them on and then really quickly run to this button at the base of this pyramid. Once you step on the button, it'll open a little hole in the top of the pyramid. While it's opening this hole, a timer is going to start counting down. Boy, would it be nice if you could use that time to start running up to the top of the pyramid, because the amount of time that it gives you to run up there after the cutscene is near impossible. In order to do this, you have to cut the corners at the tops of all the ramps, and then just barely make it in there at that last second counter. You might even have a couple tries where it looks like you made it in and then the door shuts you out. Once you get in, it's as easy as swimming to the bottom of the pyramid and picking up the Jiggy. But darn it, is it hard to freaking get that timing down. Oh my gosh, I could not tell you how much this Jiggy frustrated me. Let's move on to number 1. Number 1. Engine room between the fans, Rusty Bucket Bay. So the number 1 spot still goes to Rusty Bucket Bay. Congratulations, Rusty Bucket Bay. You made it on this list a total of 4 times. One of them was an honorable mention, but you still take the cake. In a top 10 list for top 10 levels that made it on my top 10 list, this would be number 1. Anyways, all satire aside, let's take a look at what makes this Jiggy so hard to get. So just like the honorable mention Jiggy, where you have to work your way through the engine room, you have to work your way through the engine room, full of spinning fan blades, spinning cogs, and spinning pieces. Everything spins in this engine room, it's kind of a thing. But before you go into the engine room, there's actually a button that you have to hit outside of the engine room to slow the fan blades down. Don't forget that. After you hit the button outside of the engine room to slow the fan blades down in the middle, your only objective is to make it to the fan blades and jump through. This is so much easier said than done. This Jiggy, in my opinion, presents the biggest hazard for losing lives and taking damage. I know this number 1 pick might seem kind of anticlimactic, but it is by far the hardest Jiggy to get in the game, other than the one with the fan blades behind the boat. Those propeller blades that spin inside the engine room are relentless. Once you make it in though, it's as easy as picking up the Jiggy, and then making your way back out. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this top 10. Please leave a thumbs up, and if you did enjoy it, let me know in the comments. I will definitely make more. Once again, this took a lot of time, so I would like to know if you guys enjoyed it, so I would feel more motivated to make more. Alright guys, this is Finchy, I'll see you guys later.